And here we are. All right, so this is a hot topic, apparently. We have quite a few people interested in this. ChatGPT is only one among, maybe dozens or hundreds of tools that are out there or that will be out there. But it was a pretty popular one. Apparently, it got up to 1 million users within 5 days, which is like an all-time record for people signing up for a new service or a new app like that. So, of course, I was there as well and started playing around with it. Now, by no means am I presenting myself as some kind of ChatGPT expert. I'm just one of us chickens here trying it out. But I have been trying out several things, and so I thought I'd just share those with you. And I want to talk with you at the end about the opportunity to share more, create some kind of community so we can share, because it is an exciting thing that's going on here. And I'm only just one of you all. But I'll share with you some of the things that that I've been using. So here's the agenda for the webinar. By the way, the chat, from South Africa. Great, wonderful. Juan Emilio, buenos dias. I won't be able to manage the chat or pay much attention to it. But if you do have questions, what I can do after the webinar is, I'll respond if we have time during the webinar, but after the webinar, I can download the whole chat file. So if you have something you want to discuss or contribute, please add it to the chat. Other folks can see it, the participants can see it. I'll just be a little bit preoccupied with talking. So agenda for this webinar, what is it? I think you all are familiar, but just a quick introduction to what is it to begin with. And then I asked ChatGPT the question, so what are you good for related to our domain, which I presume most of you are interested in process improvement or lean manufacturing or Six Sigma or those kind of things. So what are you good for? And it gave me, I could have asked for 100 probably, but I asked for 25. So I'll share those with you. And then review the top 25. Let's see. I'll review the top 5, that I've actually spent some time with. And then want to talk about a couple things about going forward, with ChatGPT, what's going on with that, and then maybe how we could actually work together on this. All right, so quick introduction. What is ChatGPT? Well, it's an AI model or tool that apparently has read everything on the internet only up to the year 2021. So it's not entirely up to date. And by the way, as far as I understand it, ChatGPT is not going out to the internet when you post a query. It's based on, it's been trained on a certain data set, and that data set ended in 2021, but that data set was pretty complete because as far as I can tell, they fed it just about everything they could get their hands on that was in a digital format. So, of course, it didn't read it the way we read, but it processed a ton of information. And then it's able to respond to queries, right, to questions, and also do a lot of other pretty cool things that we'll take a quick look at. And it responds basically in text. My understanding is that GPT-4, which is the latest version, has some other capabilities, but I haven't quite come across that yet or spent the time to try to explore it. So basically, it's a human-like chatbot, right, where we're writing in English or any language you want, actually, queries, and then it comes back in English as well. So pretty cool. It seems to work pretty well, and that's what we're talking about here. Now, word of caution that everyone will share with you. This ChatGPT is subject to hallucination. That's actually the term that's being used with AI tools. So hallucination means it doesn't quite understand reality. And it also can respond in a confident kind of way and be completely wrong. So the hallucinations would be the quote unquote technical term we use for responding to queries in an erroneous fashion, but with total confidence. In a way that doesn't seem to correspond with the data that it's been trained on. So this can continue to happen. Now, one thing I've noticed, or that people have also mentioned, is that if you can ground your query into something that's very specific, then you get better results. And when you ask more generalized kind of queries, then it can kind of, on occasion, make things up. And I've experienced that, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. So in other words, don't bet the farm on the information you're getting. Although for the most part, when I see the responses I'm getting, they seem to make sense and seem to be correct. But you know, it is subject to that. The other comment I'll make before we get started is that this is just scratching the surface. I always have to have a cat video in our webinars as well, right? So we're just scratching the surface here. I'm just scratching the surface of what's possible or what will be happening, what's possible now. So, you know, this is by no means a complete presentation. This is just a sharing some of the experiences that I've had with ChatGPT, but it's turning into quite a big world. So as we get started, let's do a poll here. And by the way, this is a DALL-E image, again, AI generated image of an audience raising their hand. And apparently, I guess it's gotten better, but DALL-E and these other image generators have problem with hands. And you can see that, right? You have 5 fingers, sometimes more than 5, a lot of times less than 5. Or if you ask it, you know, to show someone shaking hands, it really has a problem with that. So apparently it's gotten better. So here's a poll. I'm going to start it right now. Real simple, couple questions. You should see it on your screen. And just asking a couple questions. Have you used ChatGPT yet? And some of you may answer yes extensively. Yes, or I played around with it. Or no, I haven't used it at all yet. So could you go ahead and answer, and we'll display the results at the end of the poll. I'll just give you a couple seconds. Just go in and give us a quick answer so we can see among our audience here what the breakout is. You know, how much experience you actually have with using this. All right, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'll close out the poll. So 1, 2, and 3. So let's see in the poll. All right, well, we'll just continue on here. Stop. Hey, Google, stop. All right, so here are the top 20 uses that ChatGPT came up with when I said, give me the top 20 uses for ChatGPT in the domain of lean manufacturing process improvement. So we're not going to spend much time on this. By the way, at the end of this presentation, you can download a copy of this presentation and get this list if you're interested in it, or you can just ask yourself, right? Re-ask the question yourself. So pretty good list, though, of things that are of interest to us as process improvement specialists. So identify process inefficiencies, analyze existing processes, identify waste. So that's pretty much a lean manufacturing type of thing. Root cause analysis. I'll spend a little bit of time on that. This is of interest to me. So trying to find the root cause of process defects, errors, flow, etc. Process mapping. Now, this is mostly text, so I'm not sure how, or if at all, ChatGPT could help us with flow charts and that kind of visual, graphical interface, but certainly with text, it may be able to help us. Standard work development, I'll touch on that, things that I've looked at. Kaizen event planning, so aiding in organizing Kaizen events and coming up with ideas. Training materials, I'll spend some time on that as well. So developing manuals, articles, courses, PowerPoints, all those kind of things can be very, interestingly, shockingly helpful there. Performance metric tracking, data analysis and visualization, benchmarking, idea generation, that's an interesting one. Risk assessment, I'll spend a little time on that with things like FMEA, change management within an organization, knowledge management, value stream mapping. Again, I don't think it does flowcharts, but might be able to help in some way there. 5S implementations, and we're still just at 15 here. Just in time and Kanban, I'll show you some things that I'm working on currently in that arena. TPM, or total productive maintenance, supplier relationships, simulation and modeling. I'll spend some time on that. Project management. And then the last 5, writing Excel macros. I'll spend some time on that to help automate some of the things we do. Skills assessment, very important. Writing code. Again, I'll spend maybe a little bit more time on that one because that's really powerful. Creating courses, yes, and integrating lean principles into software development. I'm not sure exactly what it meant by that, but clearly it had something in mind. All right, so top twin uses. So in general, I see, based on that list, I see an opportunity to add ChatGPT to your process improvement team. So if you're a process improvement manager, you have a group of people working, you could just, as you have meetings, brainstorming sessions, et cetera, or planning meetings, you could plan on adding ChatGPT to the table, little monitor there. And this is another actual DALL-E generated image, right, of inviting a robot, which kind of came out weird, but he's holding it in his hands, right? Join a robot to the process improvement team. Okay, so what I'm going to be addressing are things that I've actually worked on to a certain extent, in some cases more than others. But the 5 topics are learning or research of items, of writing, which I do a fair amount of, and there's some cool tools there. Coding, which I'm quite interested in. Simulation modeling is a big deal for us for mixed model line design, kind of our domain, our wheelhouse. So interested in that, and then just in general Kaizen opportunities, right? So I'll go through them, starting with the first one. So learning and research. So this is kind of the most basic use, I would say, for Google, right? You pull up Google when you want to learn something, you want to find out something, you have a question. So that's a pretty basic one. So on this, and I apologize, I know maybe on your screen, this is a little small. Again, you'll be able to get the PDF and see. But all I wanted to point out here is the difference between a Google search and maybe what you could do with ChatGPT. So in Google, when you submit a search question item, what Google's going to give you typically is a list of links to articles, to videos, to other things, and then it's kind of up to you. And presumably those links are in order with some kind of algorithm, right, that Google has, where the most important ones or the best ones are at the top, and then you go down and it'll give you multiple pages, as you know, right? We've used this for years. But it's kind of up to you to click on these links and try to do your own research to find what you're looking for. Whereas with ChatGPT, here's a question I asked. What is an Obeya room? Gee, I've heard of Obeya. What is that? So you can actually ask ChatGPT that kind of question, or you could enhance that question with, give me a 1,000-word summary of what an Obeya room is. You could ask, for more specific things, or give me an outline of the top 10 features of an Obeya room. And instead of asking you to search through links, it's going to give you the answer, basically. Now, you can ask for links, but I'll show you, sometimes you run into a problem with that currently with the current version of ChatGPT. So it's going to give you the information. Presumably, it's read every book available in a digital format on Obeya, and you can ask it lots of stuff. And one of the points I'll get back to is there's a skill required in posing your query, right? In writing the request to ChatGPT. The better you get at that, the better response you're going to get. Because if you write very general kind of queries to ChatGPT, you're going to get kind of generic types of answers. And it's not that the more detailed, more profound information is not in there in the training material that it reviewed. It's just that you have to ask the right questions, is what I've seen. Because my initial response when I was looking at ChatGPT is, yeah, that answer is correct, but it's kind of superficial, right? Let's try to drill down a little bit more deeply. Another cool thing that I uncovered is you can ask ChatGPT to test your understanding. So if you have a topic and you want to learn, but maybe see how much you actually know, or you've been studying a topic, or you want to test your team in terms of their understanding, or you want to test a new employee in terms of the depth of understanding, you can have ChatGPT write an exam. So the query might have been something like, give me 10 questions on the subject of fill in the blank. make it multiple choice and pause between each question. And then at the end of each question, give me an explanation of the correct answer in 3 paragraphs. I mean, you can go to whatever detail you want. And then at the end of the quiz, give me a final score. So here's just a simple example. So here's a question: what is the process of converting data into? Now, this is a question that ChatGPT came up with, not me, right? What is the process of converting data into a format that can be easily analyzed and visualized, known as? And it gives you 4 choices. And then you put in an answer, and then it says correct or incorrect, and then it gives you an explanation. And then it'll stop, pause, and then give you the next question, et cetera. So I thought that was very cool. And you could ask it for 100 questions if you want. Now, here's the thing, back to the hallucination issue. Because the data only goes through 2021, it's dated. And so in this case, I asked the query, give me 10 links on the best articles on Hoshin Kanri. And it said, sure, here you go. And it gave me 10 links. But I looked at that first one. I know Mark Graban, and I'm pretty sure Mark Graban never wrote a book on Hoshin Kanri, a strategic planning methodology. I could be wrong, Mark, but so I clicked on that link, and it took me to some totally unrelated thing. And so I thought, that's kind of fishy. So I clicked on the second one. The second one was one of these page not found errors. So because the data is not current, when you ask it for things and you expect current, up-to-date information, then you're probably going to be disappointed. So that's where Google would be a much better choice. Google has its little bots going out and keeping things up to date on a fairly good basis. So you can actually filter Google on show me everything that's as of today or as of an hour, whereas ChatGPT, at least this version of ChatGPT, will not do that. In the future, probably will, right? But right now, it will not. Okay, so pretty, but good, because if you want a specific answer, it'll give that to you. So next thing that I've been working with, quite a bit, is using ChatGPT for writing or generating content, and it's got some really powerful capabilities there. So here's one of them. If you go on YouTube and do some searches on ChatGPT, there's a ton of stuff, and there are tons of people, coming up with all kinds of creative uses. And one of them is you can use or link into ChatGPT and add your own data, your own company's data, for example. So you can set up your own private chatbot. Now, I haven't done this yet, so this is just what I've heard. But I am exploring actually doing it. So you set up a private chatbot, you train it, or you add your own content to it. And in terms of my company, Leonardo Group Americas, we have a ton of content. We've written books, we have courses, we have just tons of content related to mixed model manufacturing, which is our wheelhouse. So once you've done that, then you can have ChatGPT use that specific to your company or your organization information to generate landing pages, courses, articles, blogs, lots of good uses. And so clearly I'm interested in that, and I'll have to report the results of that. But apparently it's not that hard, because here's an ad that I saw from Fiverr, 5 with another R on it.com. One of these places where you can hire contract people. And here's a guy, and he wasn't alone. There were like a lot of these people saying, I will create or integrate an AI chatbot for your website or messenger using ChatGPT. And the premium, like that's the best package you can get to do that, is $80, which is not a whole lot of money. So I don't know exactly what he has in mind, but my impression is it's what I just told you, right? So I'm going to be looking at this, but if you go to Fiverr, you're going to find lots of people willing to help you set that up and do that, which I think is pretty cool. So I mentioned standard work definitions, because if you have your own process-related documentation as part of your private chat box, then you can ask ChatGPT to do a lot of stuff with that, right? To create work instructions, to create visual work instructions, document your processes in detail, analyze your processes, analyze your standard work definitions in detail, look for errors, clean up the writing. Lots of opportunities in that regard. So I think that's pretty exciting. Now, in terms of writing, the other thing that ChatGPT does seem to be really good at is this idea of requesting an outline. So here's my query. I said, write a comprehensive and detailed, so I want it detailed and specific, outline for a course. So I'm thinking like an online course or a PowerPoint type presentation on the subject of Hoshin Kanri, which is a topic I'm interested in, organized into logical sections. Under each section, suggest subtopics. So this is just a snippet of it. Again, if you have ChatGPT, you can ask it that same question and get presumably the same information. May actually be different, slightly different, but it gave me a really good detailed outline, multiple pages on the screen of different topics and then subtopics under each one. And then the cool thing is that you can go into the subtopics and say, okay, give me 1,000 words on the subtopic of Hoshin Kanri key principles and concepts, for example. And it'll generate very well written. And just a side comment, how well written is it? Well, I can take that ChatGPT text and I can paste it into Word, and Word has a little edit function that I think is a more recent feature, where it'll analyze your text for spelling, for grammar, for readability, for all these kind of things. And when I do that from ChatGPT, I typically get a 99 or 100% score straight out of the box. So it's generating really good quality writing, basically. And you can actually specify what kind of writing. Do you want it to be formal? So if you say formal, it won't even use apostrophe, won't. It'll say will not, would not. Or you can use professional, which will kind of loosen it up a little bit, but still pretty straight-laced. Or you can say friendly, informal, witty, funny, and it'll reorganize how it's writing things. Now, one question I still have is, if I generate a webinar or a blog or a book even based on ChatGPT, did I write it? Can I publish a book with my name on it, saying I wrote it when I didn't? Or maybe I edited, ChatGPT wrote it and I made some changes. What are the rules there? I'm not sure. I need to do some research on that. What do you all think? You can add a comment in the chat about that, because that's something that could be coming up. We could see lots of books out there in the world that were written by ChatGPT or AI with people's names on it and everything else, and they didn't really have that much to do with it. Now, talking about writing again, there's something called the API, so a programming interface that ChatGPT has released. So that means that third parties can tap into the capabilities and create their own front ends or their own applications and take advantage of ChatGPT. So this is one of them that I'm actually using today. I signed up and got a membership or subscription to it. It's called Jasper, and I'm just giving you a little screenshot of it. But the way it works is this: you basically have like a Google Docs or a Word screen, space, and you can type just like you would in Word, or you can put in a ChatGPT command at any point in the text, and it'll take the information from that point and above in the document and refer to that. So you basically type in your query, you highlight it, you hit, I think it's Control Enter, and it'll plug in the response to your query right in that spot. So it's kind of like human ChatGPT hybrid writing, where you could write it all manually if you wanted, or you can have ChatGPT use it, or you can have ChatGPT get started, right, with a draft, and then you reword it and work on it that way. So that seems to be really productive. It's kind of like you're doing research and writing at the same time. And again, this could be used for anything. It could be used for an article, a blog, a landing page, anything you need, or a whole book. Smaller or larger, it's not really limited. So currently I'm using this, and you can see I'm working on we had a book on mixed model material flow in a draft form, but I'm running it through this right now, and hopefully I can bring this to market a lot more quickly than just trying to do everything by hand, which typically takes a long time. If you've ever tried to write a book, it takes a long time. So I'm hoping this will speed it up. All right. Next area, this is really interesting, coding and macros, which is really kind of a similar thing. I watched last night, I was trying to get further educated on ChatGPT, and I watched an interview from one of the developers from Microsoft who was collaborating on this and had done a review of ChatGPT 4 or GPT-4, the latest version. And he had an interesting case history on ChatGPT and coding. He said that, you know, if you apply for a job at Amazon or Microsoft or any of these tech companies, especially in the domain of programming, they don't just take your word for it. If you say, yeah, I know Python, I know C++, they don't just believe you, they test you. So they have a test that you would sit down for. I guess it would vary by company, but typically it would be about 2 hours, where they give you some input information, and then they put you in a quiet room, hopefully, and then you demonstrate your skills. So they typically give you a couple hours to do that, 2 hours, let's say. So they gave the same test that they would typically give, I think this was at Amazon, the Amazon test, to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT ranked as number 1, meaning no humans had done better. And ChatGPT completed the task in 3.5 minutes versus 2 hours. So what this guy from Microsoft said was, you know, at least in this domain, ChatGPT is approaching superintelligence. It's not just language, answering questions. It's approaching superintelligence when it comes to this kind of stuff, coding, generating code and macros. Now, it's not perfect, right? But apparently ChatGPT 4 has gotten a lot better, and that's what we're dealing with. So talking about coding, I had an opportunity. We have a tool on our website, the Lean Design Studio, called the Lean Design Simulator. And it runs kind of in a black box, but the data input is from an Excel file. So you complete an Excel file with various tabs. I don't know if you can read this, but it says flow description, products, resources, flow, description, process time, and sequence. So you complete this in Excel, and then you upload it to the simulator engine that processes it, and then again in Excel returns you a results file. So it's pretty cool. We're really proud of this. But since you're entering the data by copying and pasting or manually entering data into this Excel file, although we do have built-in validations that Excel will do, you've got that data tab in Excel and you can put in some rules. But even so, we wanted to try to eliminate mistakes as much as possible so that when you upload it to the black box simulator, it doesn't kick out some error messages, right? It's able to run. So I thought, that'd be a good opportunity to create a pretty sophisticated and complete macro or set of macros that does data validation, right? That checks through the file. So I just did a little experimentation here on a macro, right? Writing a macro, and this is just getting started. I mean, there are dozens of things I could be checking for throughout these multiple tabs, but here's the prompt that I submitted to ChatGPT. I said, write a VBA for Excel macro that will verify that the first tab in the active workbook is named flow description. If not, display an error message and exit. That would kind of indicate that you don't have a data file, right? Or something's fundamentally wrong with it. And then select the worksheet named resources, starting with the second row and continuing to the end of the data. Verify that the cell value in row 3 is either P, S, or O. If not, change the background color of that cell to light red. So again, I can continue on with lots of validations, but I thought I'd start with that one. So let's see if this works. I've never really used this before, but it's a video. So I'm going to try to play you a video of that process here. Okay, so we're starting with a text description of what we want. And I have it here in the PowerPoint slide, but we'll just highlight it here and copy it and then switch over to ChatGPT. I'm selecting GPT-4, that's the latest one, probably a little bit better. And I'm going to paste that text right into the prompt box. So write a VBA for Excel macro that verifies that the first tab is flow description. So we have the right type of file. If not, display an error message, and then find the worksheet called resources and check for some information there. So I just clicked enter, and it's going to just start cranking the VBA macro. And it's adding some commentary as well, you can see. It's kind of telling me for each block or each section what's happening there. So this is a great way actually to learn VBA as well. You can ask it to even be more detailed in terms of its explanation. I could have added, document this macro in high level of detail. Okay, so it's moving right along, getting close to the end here of this short one. And you'll notice it's adding some error checking too as well. So if nothing's found, etc., it'll display an error message and not just crash. So that's kind of a nice thing to have as well. And if it does find an error, I'm just asking it to change the cell color to a light red color and then continue on. And then it's giving me some little instruction at the end of kind of summarizing what it's doing in this macro. Nice thing to have. And it looks like we're done. So I can just go up and there's a little link here at the top to copy the code. So it's going to copy it into the clipboard. Now I'm going to go over to Excel. So here's the Excel file that I want to check. And I'm going to select developer and add a macro. Create a new macro. So I'm just going to paste in directly what ChatGPT created for me. And I'm going to go back to the actual data in the file, view, I know there's a shortcut, I'm not using it here, and select that macro and just say run it. And if we go over to resources, the resource tab, there were no mistakes. But let's see what happens if we actually deliberately introduce some errors. So instead of a P or an O or an S, I put some X's in there, and I just run the macro again. Run, and sure enough, it found those errors and it highlighted the cell with the red. So that piece of the macro worked, and so far so good, and we'll continue on building this. Sorry about that, folks. I should be back. Thank you, Michael. Let me just recap for a minute. We're going to move on to simulation modeling and talk about how we're using that. Let me just make sure. Can you all hear me? Yeah, I'm back, right? I think I'm back. So what I was saying is simulation modeling is important for us in the world of mixed model manufacturing because we have a lot of variability that we introduce by having different products, different work content times, even potentially different flow. And so it's really hard to understand, no matter how experienced you are, to understand how this value stream or how this assembly line is going to actually perform when you start changing the mix and adding new products, et cetera, without having a model. So we're big fans of simulation modeling. Now, one of the thoughts I had was, I know in the past some Excel buddies of mine have actually written a discrete event simulation modeling macro, if you want to call it that, or system to do simulation modeling 100% in Excel. But it was a little bit slow, and it was not really designed for that. It was a little bit beyond the capabilities. So one of the things that ChatGPT can do is run or generate Python code or any other language, right? C++ or you name it. So Python is an option, and there are some libraries in Python specifically for discrete event simulation modeling that already exist. So here's a script that I created. Again, this is plain English, but I typed it out, and I'm telling ChatGPT, use Python and use the SymPy, that's the library that I wanted it to use for simulation modeling, to create a discrete event simulation program. Provide a detailed explanation of each coding step suitable for a coding beginner. So don't assume that I know Python necessarily, but generate the code. And then I gave some data. So it's tried to keep it simple for starters. So one product, 4 stations, around a minute per station, but add some variability to that. The product flow is from station 1, 2 to 3 to 4. Create a buffer, prompt for warm-up time and runtime. So that would be something the user would enter before you run it for the warm-up time. So I think this could actually be maybe even a little bit more detailed, but this is what I instructed ChatGPT to do. So let me show you then the video of how this worked. Right, another video. Okay, let's start with another type of code challenge, and that is using programming language like Python. So I've created some prompts here for what we want to do using that same data file that we just looked at in the previous example, and I want to see how far we can get with this. So I'm going to copy this prompt, and then I'm going to go over to ChatGPT. Here we are. I'm going to use GPT-4. Before I get started, I want to ask ChatGPT for some questions. Can you write a Python program using the SymPy, that's a simulation modeling library, to create a discrete event simulation modeling program? Something like that. SymPy is a process-based discrete event simulation framework. It allows you to model events and their interactions. Here's a simple example of a discrete event simulation. So it's going to create something here. So I guess it's telling me it can. I'm just going to say stop generating. So let's paste my script into here. So use Python to create a discrete event simulation program. Use Windows functions to prompt for a local Excel file. Open the Excel file, etc. So this is really just getting started. Okay, so you can use the tkinter library for a simple file dialog to prompt for a local Excel file. That's good. And the pandas library to read and validate the Excel file contents. Here's an example program that uses those libraries. So you can see it's generating the code. Don't know if it runs yet or works. We'll give that a try. But in any case, we'll have at least a starting point here of what we wanted to do. All right. So again, we're not getting very far in this creation, but it would give us a starting point in any case, and we can continue working on that that script to move this further on. Okay. So let's see how far we get here. So I'm going to copy the code, and then I'm going to go into editor here, and let's start with a new one. So edit, file, new file, a Python file. And I'm just going to paste what ChatGPT did, and I'm going to try to run it. Let's see what happens. All right, so it's popping up here and it's asking me to enter a file name. So that's a good sign. And I can just find one of my save as file type. No. So this is kind of a funny thing. So I'm going to see if I can find all files. Oh, I'm sorry, I did it again. Sorry. I should be back now. So let me just recap. I was able to get this code to run, right? To give me the prompts, to generate results, which was pretty good in itself since I don't know Python, and I was just, my skill level is I could take the code and paste it into an editor and run it, but really have no Python experience. And so for me to from scratch try to write that Python code, that would never happen. But in about 60 seconds, it was able to generate the code to at least get it to this stage. So what I'm suspecting is, and I've seen this online as well, is that if you are a coder, actually you're a programmer, and you get familiar with ChatGPT, then you're going to be, I don't know what, 5 times more productive than before, because apparently a human being is still needed. So at least at this stage, because it's not always perfect, right? It requires maybe multiple iterations. Maybe your prompt wasn't clear enough, or maybe you need to go in and do some tweaking to the code. And certainly, there are a lot of details that maybe you didn't capture in your initial request to ChatGPT. That's why I'm saying here that the quality and the detail of what you're asking for is really important. And it's helpful or necessary to be familiar with the language that you're asking it to write in, so you can actually check it and do repairs. But what I've seen online is that programmers that are starting to use this are way, way more productive in terms of the code, the numbers of lines of code they can get out per hour or per day than before, because you don't have to start from a blank sheet of paper and start writing code. So that's kind of a game changer if you're a programmer. And apparently right now we still need them, but maybe not as many, I think is what's going to happen. So the other thing is, if you have an error, let's say you know nothing about Python. If you have an error, you can paste it back into ChatGPT and say, hey, you made a mistake, and it'll try to fix itself. Now, I think the main problem right now with code is that, remember, the data set that ChatGPT was trained on stopped in 2021. So what I've seen myself run into a few times is that the version of Python that I'm using was after that. And so it's starting to get errors because the code that it's generating is down level. So again, that's something I'm sure that can be repaired in the future. But anyway, pretty cool. And I think this is a game changer for a lot of people in terms of what it can do. Now, in terms of using it for simulation, I would not be surprised if someone who knows Python well and could sit down with a subject matter expert on simulation could actually develop a product in a really short time, as long as you could specify clearly what you want and make tweaks or repairs, compared to months or longer to develop it just on your own, right? Writing code. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, the other thing I want to experiment with is I want to finish the data validation macro that I showed you earlier. That's another coding type thing that I am working on that is within my skill set. And I also want to ask, because I'm more familiar with VBA, see if ChatGPT can write a simulation modeling tool purely in Excel with macros, and see how far we go there. So some interesting opportunities there. Last thing I want to touch on here is root cause analysis. I have not done that much experimentation with this, but it said that it could help with this. And so I asked it to provide me an example. I said, ChatGPT, give me an example of what you're talking about. How could you help? How could you help with root cause analysis? And so I guess it just kind of made up an example. And this is what you see here. Again, it may be hard to read on your screen, but basically there's a scenario that it created. I didn't type in the scenario. It did, to give me an example. So we gave ChatGPT some data, and then it came back with some questions. For example, have you had any changes on the assembly line? Any new equipment? Any new people? Any new suppliers? Are there any patterns in the defects that you're seeing? Have you had any changes in the maintenance? So these are all good questions, that we could ask as human beings, but, let's get some help here in terms of brainstorming. And then there's an answer. Yes, we introduced a new supplier. So then ChatGPT, based on that response, came back with, thank you for that information. We need to look at a couple things, put component quality from the new supplier and possibly changes in the staffing, night shift personnel. So again, reasonable things to look at, and then some sub potential causes for or root causes. Inspect the components for the new supplier, review the training of the night shift, observe the assembly process during the night shift. So again, these aren't things that we could never think of as human beings. But when you have, when you get organized in this way, and it'd be like another person sitting around the conference table that can suggest potential root causes for a problem, as long as you can express it clearly up front. So this could be pretty powerful. Same thing with FMEA, failure mode and effect analysis. It sounds like ChatGPT is offering to help in a number of areas, but again, it's text-based, so we'd have to have some way of communicating with it. But in FMEA, you're looking for various failure modes and then the effects that can happen. So potential defects, and then what are the various impacts of that in those three dimensions, if you're familiar with the FMEA process. So in terms of brainstorming, ChatGPT, I think, could be very powerful. Again, to have them sitting at the conference table and brainstorming as you're going through an FMEA process. Can't hurt. All right. So getting close to the end here, a couple things I wanted to share with you. I've seen this again being bandied about. There's a new position in our profession, either in the software arena or in process improvement arena, called a prompt engineer. So what is a prompt engineer? It's someone who knows how to format the questions that you're asking to AI in a way that gives you, profound and accurate answers. So because, as I've mentioned before, the quality of what you're asking for makes a big difference in terms of the answer you get back. So here's an example that I thought was pretty interesting. This is related to detailed, specific prompts. The prompt was, give me 30 semantically relevant but unique topics under the main category of fill in the blank. So some topic you want to research. So the main category or heading. And by the way, this was a query that was put together, a prompt that was put together from someone who wanted to really get to the page one in Google by creating content that was specific and unique, so that when Google did its searches, it would assume that this person here was there's a technical term for it, a topical authority is the word. So how do you become an authority on a specific topic? Well, you have content out there that relates you to that topic. So to become a topical authority. So topical authority is the main category. And then that's prompt number one. So you're going to get a list of 30 semantically relevant but unique topics related to that main topic. And then you ask a second query. For each of those 30, give me 10 different keyword variations of one of the topics from above that addresses a different search intent. So someone's searching for basically the same main topic, but asking for it in a slightly different way. So if you multiply 30 times 10, you now have a list of 300 potential articles, blog posts, content that you can then work on. Now that sounds like impossible, but again, you're going to use ChatGPT to help you create that content, presumably, with a human interface to get that done. And it's not going to happen overnight, but if you pursue that path, then at some point, in theory, your relevance to that topic is going to be rising in the Google search, so that at some point you're kind of near the top of the Google search list. So the way you worded this was really important, according to this author. So the new job in the future, and you can go to what is it? There's some websites, right, for job people looking for jobs. Can't remember what they are, but you can search for the job title prompt engineer, and it's starting to show up. People looking to hire people that are skilled in asking those questions. Also, you can use ChatGPT to help you with prompts. There's a YouTube video called "Turn ChatGPT into a Powerful Midjourney Prompt Machine." So apparently, Midjourney is one of these image generators like DALL-E. And apparently, if you run your query through ChatGPT, you tell ChatGPT, give me a powerful, detailed prompt that I can then paste into Midjourney, then that makes a huge difference in the quality of the image you get back from Midjourney. So there are all kinds of things happening in that arena. All right. So what else is coming up? Again, I'm not an expert in this. I'm just sharing with you what I've seen, but there's some interesting things in the pipeline. Google Bard. I signed up. I joined the wait list for Google Bard. So I guess that's Google's response to ChatGPT. Now, Google had an AI system, and they hadn't released it. I guess they're being conservative. Lambda, I think it was called. But they clearly have to compete. So I don't know where Google Bard shows up exactly. Would it be a link on Chrome, on a Chrome page? I'm not exactly sure. But I joined the wait list to get a hold of it when it's released. Now, Bing already includes AI. So if you go to the Bing search engine, you'll see it up at the top. I think it's called Chat. They have a little link on the top called Chat. And when you click on Chat, basically, I think it's linked to GPT-4. So it's already built in, available to you. Direct connection to GPT-4 costs $20 a month, but I think it's already built into Bing, if I'm not mistaken. Now, here's the coolest thing coming up. It's called, in my opinion, it's called Copilot. So Microsoft 365 Copilot, what is this? So this is AI similar to ChatGPT, I guess. So language-based model, but it's built into the Microsoft 365 products. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive. So the potentials are unlimited. For example, I heard someone talk about, I guess in a demo, they took an Excel file with a bunch of data, and Copilot was able to just go in and analyze that data and identify trends, identify all kinds of stuff, basically on its own. Just click on that link, that button. Another pretty interesting thing is that if you have your data, your documents in OneDrive, guess what? Microsoft can see it. So you can authorize, I don't know if you need to give permission or not, but Copilot can see all of your Word documents, Excel files, PowerPoint presentations, and use your voice and your content to generate new stuff. So you can go into PowerPoint and say, hey, based on my previous work, Copilot, and based on my style, generate a PowerPoint presentation on this subject. And it'll generate the content, the notes, the graphics, the images, the title slide, everything kind of automatically. So it's not, Copilot's not available yet, but supposedly it's going to be late spring, early summer where we'll have that. Okay, next thing, ChatGPT 5. So one thing that Sam Harris said was, where are we in the learning curve or the maturity curve for AI? Well, we don't really know, right? But even if you assume no particular pace of improvement, just as long as it's continuing to improve. So in other words, as long as we don't stop improving, at some point, all these are going to get better and better. This kind of scary thing is it's getting better fast. But certainly there'll be a ChatGPT 5 at some point, probably late this year, early next year, and who knows what that'll be like. So apparently there was a big jump between 3 and 4, ChatGPT 3 and 4. 3 was able to pass the bar exam, but in the lower 20% of the people that took the bar exam. ChatGPT 4, the one we're currently using now, passed the bar exam in the top 20% of the people that took the bar exam. So that's another thing kind of looming. The ChatGPT API that I mentioned earlier. So people are coming out with all kinds of applications. Jasper that I mentioned earlier was one of them, but I think there are hundreds at this point of different applications, more specific applications that tap into ChatGPT, where people can get access to that capability, but then package it in their own way or for some specific use. There are lots of those. And then personal chatbots, I'm interested in that. Don't have it yet, but something we'll be working on. So at least so far, in terms of contenders, in terms of the big tech companies, the winner so far seems to be Microsoft, because Microsoft is involved with ChatGPT, or the developers of that. They're an investor, but also Copilot, I think, is going to be huge. It's going to change the way you use the Microsoft suite tools, which basically everyone uses, right? So that's going to be really kind of a game changer, kind of scary. All right. So getting close to the end here, where are we on this technology maturity curve? Don't know, but I don't think that we're here, right? That we're approaching maturity. My intuition says, and you probably agree with me, that we're somewhere down here. So that's kind of scary, because right now, ChatGPT seems like it's a partner, right? We can use it. We have a human and AI cooperation in some kind. But it doesn't take too much imagination to think that you can get to the point of not needing us that much, right, to do these things. That's not hard to imagine. And if it doesn't need us, then what do we do exactly? For example, I wouldn't be surprised to imagine, it doesn't shock me to imagine that an AI-based system of some kind could take a video of, no, let's take it even back further. Take a description of a product that we want to develop, and then develop the design, all the components, the sourcing of those components, the work instructions, how to put it together, design an assembly line if that's what's required, or automation piece of it, balance the line, do everything based on a description of a hypothetical product. That wouldn't surprise me at all in the future. And we're not that far from being able to do pieces of that right now, of that whole process, which in the past was all people related.